Awesome. I'll go ahead and kick things off, Tony and Vikram, if you don't mind, if that's cool. Excellent. Great. Well, welcome everybody. We really appreciate you guys joining. We've got a great session today. Couldn't be more excited to talk to you a little bit more about Umbrella Easy Protect. It's widely known in the industry as a clean pipe solution. The solution is something that we'll turn it over to here to Tony Mason to dive a little bit deeper into. But what we'll understand is what's facing our service provider customers today, their customers in turn, but also how easily we can block that, we can prevent, and we can reduce risk to our end users, to our customers, to your customers as well. And we're also joined by the CEO of Nandi Security as well, Vikram. He's going to talk a little bit about something that's extremely exciting. This is actually something new that can bolt onto and be a complement to an Easy Protect solution to provide a secure home. So if you are looking, we really marketed this event to security personnel, but if you're out there and you're not only security, but you also wear the networking hat and you're also product manager out at your individual company, definitely listen up. This is an extremely great way to increase that annual revenue per user, that ARPU for your customers down circuit, but also it'll differentiate you in the market. Couldn't be more excited. I do want to turn it over to Tony and kick things off. We'll be monitoring the chat, by the way. So if you have any questions that do arise, please feel free to put those in the chat. Mark Hennessy and I will do our best to answer those. And at the end, if we've got time for a Q&A, we'll raise some of those questions, or we'll ask you to come off mute and ask that question. But without further ado, I'll turn it over to Tony Mason, and we'll get started.
Thank you, Eric. And thanks everyone for being here. As Eric mentioned, I'm Tony Mason. I'm a cybersecurity leader here at Cisco. I've been at Cisco for almost 13 years, on and off. Actually left a couple of times and then came back. Been in the industry for a lot longer than that. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited to talk to you today. This is a growing solution for service providers. It's a really clean way to add security to what you're doing. And frankly, there's a need for it. So as far as the agenda goes, I'm going to take just probably about a half hour today, and then we're going to have our business partner, Vikram, take some time. But I just want to talk a little bit about why clean pipe is needed. Some of this is review, but I always love setting the stage because, first of all, this will help just make sure we're all speaking the same language. The second thing is these points actually help service providers as you guys start selling the solution to clients. This is the conversation that actually is resonating with many of your clients. So let's talk a little bit about why clean pipes are needed. Obviously, the internet's a dirty place. We know that. I always love starting with this. You know, we did a study a couple of years ago now, where this year, 2024, it's going to be an estimated $9.5 trillion in worldwide losses due to cybercrime. Next year, 10.5. Unfortunately, we're right on pace to hit those numbers. This is such a big deal that if you would rank cybercrime as a country, the GDP would actually make it the third largest country in the world. There's a ton of money out there for criminals. We were reading an article this week, by the way, that said unfortunately, a lot of cybersecurity professionals that are getting laid off are actually turning to cybercrime because it's so profitable and they know how to hurt previous employers and hurt companies. It's crazy what's going on in the world. And the interesting thing is that because of what's happening with work from anywhere, because of what's happening just with the fact that everything we have in our homes, in our businesses, and everywhere else is connected now, it means that the attack surface is basically anything that connects to the internet, regardless of how it connects and regardless of what type of device it is. We have to actually view almost everything that we have as part of that attack surface. And that attack surface is being used by bad actors, threat actors, many times state-sponsored actors, and they're starting to target individuals, they're starting to target companies, and more they're actually starting to target companies that have employees that are working from anywhere. That's something that has been growing since the beginning of COVID. You know, look, I'm Cisco, I love it. I worked for big companies my whole career. I've averaged going into the office maybe once a quarter over my career. Traveled a lot, but it wasn't always to my office. So, from our perspective, we're kind of used to working from everywhere. But at the beginning of COVID, obviously there was this global shift from working on site with a set connection, set parameters, set security, to actually sending those same employees home, having them access private personal data and do it on largely unsecured networks. That actually increased the efficiency of bad actors. It also increased the attack surface by hundredfold. And this is where we're at today. So again, I just wanted to kind of set that stage. This is something that the good news is consumers are finally starting to think about this. They're finally starting to understand that they have to stay safer. When we talk to, service providers like you guys, more and more of your consumers are starting to either ask or even demand that there is at least some level of security on their internet link. And that's actually where you guys come in with a service like this. So let's talk about Cisco's Clean Pipe solution. We'll talk a little bit about why it's important, and then we'll talk about what it does, how it works. So when I look at it, what's in it for customers, I already mentioned the biggest one. It protects work from anywhere. This is actually a bigger deal every single week. There's more and more phishing and whaling attempts against people that they know work for a company, and they're trying to hit them when they're at Starbucks or at home, anywhere else for that matter. And the concept that we're here to talk about today is when they're in their home environment, or when an SMB or a mobile subscriber actually needs to be protected, we've got the ability to turn on security that doesn't get in the way of what you're trying to do as a service provider. It doesn't add latency. In fact, many times it can reduce latency because of the security. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what it does is it gives you the ability to actually stop phishing, malware, command and control attacks, do it automatically, and do it at scale and at speed. This also protects against this huge uptick in attacks that's going on, not only from targeted attacks like phishing and the other things I was mentioning before, but also these huge attacks that are going on against either companies or service providers that are actually affecting the network. We'll talk about a use case about that in a minute. Also at the bottom here, this is really important from a service provider standpoint. You guys all run good businesses. It's why you're still in business. But one of the things, because consumers are becoming more discerning and demanding, this solution can actually help increase provider confidence. It gives you the ability to run your network with less noise. It gives you the ability to run the network with less interference from security events. We'll talk about that more in a second too. But just keep that in mind that from a customer standpoint, that's also good. I pay a lot for my internet connection, and it keeps going up. But I also want to make sure that if my cost for my internet connection goes up, that I'm actually getting something for that cost increase. And my provider's done a pretty decent job of showing me that there's some benefits to staying with them. This is the kind of solution that can actually help provide that to your customers. The other thing, we were talking before everybody got on the phone just about protect all connected assets equally. I mean, we live in a day and age where almost everything is connected to the internet, whether it should be or not. I don't need an internet connected toaster, but I can buy one. I saw an internet connected blender the other day. I have no idea why I need an app for my blender, but it exists, right? And the truth is, this is a trend that is increasing exponentially, or at least logarithmically. And because of that, we actually need to make sure that as these new assets, as these new devices come onto the network, even if they don't have any built-in security, and most of them don't, that we've got the ability to protect not only users, but also homes and networks against any kind of flaws or attacks that happen because of those connected devices. Mentioned a couple of these before, but I always like talking about this just to set the table. Just a reminder of what's in it for you guys as providers to have a solution like this. Really boils down to these three things: customer confidence, easy adoption and onboarding, and a very low lift ARPU generation engine. A little bit on the customer confidence. Every single time we've sold a solution like Clean Pipes to a service provider, they've faced fewer network complaints. They've actually cut down on inbound support calls, and customer confidence has increased as a result. This is something that can provide a value-added solution to you, whether you include it as just a part of your network offer or whether you include it as something that you charge for. The other thing, as I mentioned before, my provider continues to raise rates. I need to know that I'm getting benefit for that raised rate, or I'm going to go shopping. This is the kind of solution that even though you can increase ARPU and increase profitability for your company, it's easy to prove that there's a benefit and a value to consumers, which means that it's a win-win for all parties. As far as the middle one, easy adoption and onboarding, we'll talk about why it's so easy in a second. But I want to call these out right now. This is a solution that you can actually onboard at scale with no hardware. All you have to do is use existing CPE, and as long as you can redirect a secondary DNS entry to our DNS servers, you're golden. It is so easy that we were able to get this running for a provider a few months ago, and we did it in 45 minutes on a Sunday morning at scale to their entire network. This is something that, again, once you guys decide you want to do this, it's really about marketing and billing. That's going to take the time. But the solution itself, you literally point to it and you turn it on and you license it, and that's it. Which means that it is a very low lift ARPU generation engine. Because you've increased security, you have fewer customer complaints and inbound support calls. Because of that, and because you are also charging, or at least including this for a while and then charging for a solution like this, you will increase profitability over time. And we were also talking to a provider this week who said, I have fewer support calls listed here, but they actually said that they've also cut down on truck rolls because of this solution. They don't have to send as many people out to some random consumer's home who think that they have a network issue when in reality they've just downloaded malware. So again, I think the beauty here is that there's a hard cost revenue generation opportunity and a soft cost removal of all of these inbound calls and truck roll costs that are associated with those. All right, I mentioned before we did this at scale. This is actually a customer view from one of our customers who is running this solution. And we're going to provide this deck later. I don't expect anybody to read this grainy screenshot here. But the beauty of this, I just want to call out a few things. First of all, they actually validated what I just talked about. At the middle column here, I know it's hard to see, but I just want to read one line from this. We had a DNS attack. We saw a huge spike in issues. It's definitely gone down by a fair amount since implementation. We're seeing 800 fewer trouble tickets compared to the previous year. So, I mean, they were running it just for a few months and they've already seen 800 fewer trouble tickets. So this is substantial. It's something that can actually help you. All right, let's talk a little bit about why Cisco. This is getting to be a crowded market. I mean, Cisco has been in the security game for a very long time, but there's a lot of other solutions out there. I appreciate you guys taking the time to join us today, and I do want to talk a little bit about why your time and your interest in Cisco can be rewarded as you guys move forward with the solution. I want to start here. Cisco is a very, very large company, as you guys know. And we right now have the largest and most effective private threat research team in the world. It's called Cisco Talos. This is something that we've been using for enterprise class customers for a decade or more. And this team has actually grown to the point where we have about 500 full-time threat researchers. We're seeing 80% of global internet traffic on a daily basis. We've got machine learning and AI that we've been running for 8 or 9 years now to make sense of all of the traffic that we see, look for new threats, look for unknown threats, and then make quick decisions on how to update solutions. And this is something that has been always levied at our enterprise customers. As you know, Cisco is a big enterprise company. Most of the time, we're selling to really large companies. And then we also have a fair amount of business that we do with commercial, public sector, and obviously service providers of all size. However, we've decided to make this same threat intelligence available in this security solution that is CleanPipe, Easy Protect, which means that for the first time, residential consumers have access to the very same threat intelligence that is being used to protect all of the Fortune 100 companies. And hundreds of thousands of other security clients throughout the world. This is a big deal because, like I said at the beginning, part of what has necessitated the solution is the work from home or work from everywhere shift. So by having this level of threat intelligence and the ability to really apply what we're learning everywhere globally to residential networks is the biggest way that we can actually protect against phishing, malware, and other real-time solution and threats. This is a big deal, as I mentioned, and this is actually the reason why we are growing this category the fastest. There are a lot of other solutions out there, but some offer some bells and whistles. A lot of them are tied to hardware. Again, we're confident that this is the only solution in the industry that is hardware agnostic, easy to scale, affordable, and has the benefit of enterprise class threat intelligence. We've got some stats there. You guys can reference these later. I referenced them verbally. I also want to remind you, Cisco, again, is a large security company. We've actually got 30 solutions in our portfolio. These have protected hundreds of thousands of clients globally for a very long time. We're one of the fastest growing security solutions in the world, too. And I don't say that to brag. I just say it because, again, we're applying the same level of learnings, threat intelligence, and security that we have for all of these different classifications and categories of security to a home product for the first time. And we're doing it in a way that is very affordable, easy to scale, and very easy for you to monetize. All right, if you guys if you do business in addition to residential, I wanted to just remind you that we also have the enterprise class versions of Umbrella available. The difference with these, as opposed to like a clean pipe solution, clean pipe gives you the security, it blocks the worst stuff on the internet. These packages actually include enterprise class filtering, uh, all the way up through layer 7 firewall capabilities, CASB, whatever you guys need, we've got it in our Umbrella packages for enterprise. And we actually see providers that have a business now for clean pipe to residential and mobile, and then one of these packages for businesses. We can help you actually get all of those done. So whenever you're ready, we can talk about that. All right, but let's get back to clean pipe. Here's what it is. Again, I've mentioned it, but I wanted to just call it out visually and verbally again. There's 3 different versions of this clean pipe solution. Starting from the left, we've got a small business license that is available. And I mean small business. Most of the time, businesses are going to want to go for one of these packages if they have any kind of security team, or if they're dealing with something like financial data or any other kind of sensitive PII. However, there are a lot of small businesses that don't know technology from anything. They just know they need some security, and they want to take advantage of the benefits of clean pipe by cutting down on the phishing and inbound issues. And we've got a license for that. So we see this license being used a lot in like dentist offices, very small clinics where they've got some personal information they've got to protect, but they don't have anybody on staff that can actually help. And this is just a really good way for them to kind of get the base level of security. Where we see the most growth right now is in mobile and consumer. We've got a license that's tied to a SIM. We've got mobile providers that are using this, really inexpensive, and it does exactly the same thing as all of these licenses does. Again, protects against phishing, malware, command and control. But where the biggest growth is coming in is actually on the consumer broadband side. We have the ability now to price our licenses for less than $1 per month per circuit. You guys can mark it up to whatever you want. And we're seeing that market be between $3 and $8 a month for this. So these can be really profitable over time. And again, we can scale this. And the reason why this is good is not just because the license costs are low and you guys can make some money, but again, enterprise class security, lower inbound support calls, lower truck rolls, increased customer confidence, all these other things I talked about, which means that it's a profitable solution that will actually help you capture and maintain and potentially even grow your market share. So again, these 3 license types, and these are affordable licenses. We will make sure that we're giving you the best possible deal. We're trying to get this out to the world because this is a category that really demands worldwide attention at this point. In fact, some of the largest projects that I'm personally working on right now are to help a few of the countries that are surrounding the US to deal with countrywide initiatives to make sure that any ISP provides base level security. And we're actually working to do this at scale for entire countries right now. Here in the US, we'll probably never get to that because, well, frankly, I know we're recorded and all, but we all know Congress can't agree on anything. So I'm not too worried about this being a national law anytime soon, like it is in some of the surrounding countries. However, more and more of you may be beholden to some of these international standards that are coming. And even if there's not a law saying that we need to do it in the US, there's certainly some pointers coming from CISA, from the White House, from other security minded agencies within the federal government, asking service providers to be adherent to baseline security standards. And this is one of the best ways that you can actually attach a solution without having to buy hardware and get into the subscription models and all this other stuff that's out there. And not only protect your customer base and grow and be profitable, but also adhere better to what's going on in the world. So again, we hope that you'll give this a look, not only because it's affordable and profitable, but frankly, because it's the future. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Cisco difference. I've hammered on the no hardware specific thing already. I'm not even going to repeat it again, but I just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of these other ones. This works in your current DNS environment. Many of you have your own DNS structure. We don't want to change a thing. We're not asking you to kind of buy hardware and make it the default standard or change CPE. Whatever you have running is going to be good. Like I said, as long as you can direct a secondary DNS resolution to our servers, you're good. And you're going to get all the benefits that you need out of this solution, which makes it down to the bottom left. It makes it way easier to sell and scale than subscription services. Your sellers don't have to convince somebody to go with a $10 a month subscription and hardware and deal with new logins and. You literally turn it on and you either can start revenue generation day one or day 90 or however you guys want to spin it up. But you maintain ownership. You don't have to worry about all of these other hardware intricacies that happen with some of the competition or mobile applications or anything else. And you've got the security we were talking about. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Vikram here in a second, and we're going to talk a little bit about filtering in the home. But I just wanted to talk just for a second about where we've seen this be the most successful. First of all, every successful rollout that we've done starts with a POV. This can be real time, by the way. I was talking about that use case that we had highlighted. They called us because they were under attack. So the POV for them was, let's turn this on and literally cut down their support calls to the point where they got news vans out of their parking lot because of turning this on. It was a fascinating story. So these POVs can actually be real time and in network if you want, or you can just do like an IP range and we can test it out. But either way, the beauty is we're going to be able to prove everything that I just talked about and prove it very quickly. Really, what's going to come down for you guys is the marketing plan. We have these three questions that usually have to get answered in order to roll this out successfully. Do you want to do this network wide or per package? Are you going to charge immediately or are you going to add it over time? And then the third one is one that I do want to highlight before I turn it over to my friend Vikram. Are you going to white label this or are you going to co-brand it? I want to just highlight this, and I saved it for last for a reason. This is a solution, and by the way, Cisco doesn't always do things this way. You know, we're a big company that also likes the Cisco brand. But this is one opportunity for you guys to have a solution where we frankly, we don't want to know who your customers are. We really don't need to know anything about what they, where they are, what they're doing. We don't care. We can now white label this 100% through you guys to the point where customers are calling you for support. You've got customized block pages. You can actually co-brand this if you want to, but many solutions providers aren't. Just rebrand it to your name. We don't care. And again, we're not actually snooping on traffic or doing anything that would actually require us to see the downstream customers anyway. All we're doing is blocking bad security stuff. So again, the beauty here is you can now work with a company the size of Cisco, but do it without having to worry about Cisco's brand eclipsing yours, or even starting to overshadow yours in some ways. And this is one of the biggest reasons why providers have liked this. It's a very friendly solution. And because, again, we don't even need to know or want to know the information downstream, what you do with this and how you roll it out is up to you. We'll help. I mean, part of the POV is we can sit down and talk about how other providers have done this. But ultimately, this is your solution if you want it to be. And if you choose to co-brand it, it's totally up to you. But we're never going to force it one way or the other. It's one of the most extensible and customizable solutions I've ever seen from a company the size of Cisco. The last thing, we can do pricing very, very quickly. But like I said, we are going to make this affordable because our job is to help protect the world here. We want to make sure that everybody has access to this kind of solution, this kind of security. And we want you guys as providers to not only have access to it, but also have access to that new ARPU generation engine that will allow you to do everything I talked about in a very friendly way. So as we sit down, we can just talk about these three things in details, talk a little bit more about how the technology works. But boy, we could have this running for you and up and running in your environment within hours or days, not weeks or months or years. All right. Thank you so much for letting us talk a little bit about the clean pipe stuff. I will say this, this is we'll get to the Q&A later. This is a good, it's a great solution, but one of the things about it is there's really not much to show. I was talking before with Vikram about, are we going to do a demo? And the truth is there's no demo for this. You turn it on and it works. So it's the most boring demo in the world. But you're about to see something that's really cool that goes together with clean pipe, like peanut butter goes with chocolate. This is one of those solutions that just works better together. So with that, let me turn it over to Vikram. Vikram, I'm going to stop sharing. You can share your screen. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. I'm going to start sharing my screen right here. I have a few slides to present to just talk about. So let me just make sure I share the right screen. Are you all seeing the presentation? No, you're seeing the. Are you all able to see the presentation?
Yep. It says Easy Protect plus Kevlar.
Exactly. Excellent. So here's what I want to cover. I want to cover a little bit about who we are, what our product does, and how we complement Easy Protect, and what's the value of the joint solution when you put the two solutions together, right? So real quick, we want to focus on the home. So we tout ourselves as an online privacy and security company, but we want to shine the light on what happens inside the home. And to some extent, what Tony covered, I want to reiterate some of these more, but a little bit more in detail. One is, if you think about the home today, with all the connected devices, you got to think about the attack surface of the home and what does that represent. So depending on which survey you look at, whether it's Parks Associates or whether it's Deloitte, it's somewhere between 17 to 20 devices. In my home, it's about 20, so it seems to be about there. But it's not just devices, it's also apps, it's also gaming systems, it's also the infrastructure, and it's also the behaviors that you do online, right, in terms of the tools you use, etc. So there are the attack surfaces comprised of apps, devices, the online services, and the websites. But that's not all. There's a fifth parameter to this equation as well, which constitutes attack surface, which is essentially the human, right? All of our personal and our behavioral information is also part of the attack surface. There are companies that we voluntarily reveal it to, and they are proud to lose the information and inform us much later. But there are also thousands of companies that we involuntarily reveal it to, and they also lose our information. And there are ways for us to control that as well. And taking control of that entire ecosystem is part of what comes into defining the home. So you got to think about the attack surface as not just the apps, the devices, apps, and online services, but also the people and the data that's associated with them. So what essentially we go, how we approach the problem is that we look at addressing cybersecurity in the home. It cannot be addressed if you don't address the privacy problem, right? So that's what we built out. Our product is called Kavlan. It's what we call an intelligent digital safety product for delivering a cleaner, safer internet. It protects everything. Every device, unlimited devices in the home, like Tommy mentioned. It protects everyone, the people as well. And then last but not the least, and I'll speak more to this, it provides intelligence for enabling what we call informed choice. And this, I think, is a critical aspect of defending the home. For the end consumer, there is no software to buy. There are no hardware devices, nothing to buy. It protects everything, be it a light bulb or a thermostat or a gaming system or a laptop. Don't care. You could have some today, you could not have some tomorrow. Don't care. It protects everything if it's in the home. So our approach to solving the problem is this, right? So what we have learned in enterprise cybersecurity is that it's a combination of tools, people, and process in order to solve the cybersecurity problem. In the home, it is the exact same thing, but guess what? You don't have CISSP certified people in every home. So how do you still solve it? The way to solve it is to think about how do you bring the human into the equation and how do you enable that human to make informed choices. So that's essentially what we do. We reduce the data footprint, we block the known bad, and we enable informed choice, all of this while in an ecosystem where those folks can go bring whatever device they want into the home or throw whatever device they have, bring whatever apps they want, delete whatever apps they have, and bring whatever router they want, or maybe they have routers from you, or maybe they have old routers from you. Don't care. They still should not have to hit reset on their basic cybersecurity and privacy posture as a result of one or more of these changing. Right? So that's our approach in terms of how we solve the problem. There are two flavors of our product that we bring into the market. The simple flavor is what we call the Light, Kavalan Light. It's a simple single cloud solution. So all of the subscribers under your organization would point to one single cloud, but everybody still gets their own personalized dashboard. So they don't get to customize. Everybody gets a blanket protection. And in both versions of our product, we integrate with Cisco Umbrella Easy Protect to be able to provide individual dashboards to everybody. The second version of our product, and as far as I'm aware, and I'd like to be corrected if I'm wrong, is that we are probably the world's only company doing it at this point in time, where we deploy individual cloud firewalls for every single home that can be customized for the needs of that specific home. So in this case as well, you can customize it, you get your own personal dashboard, and you can tune how the internet experience for your home. So combined with our friends at Cisco, what we have delivered here is essentially an industry-leading solution where we brought enterprise scale cybersecurity that Tony talked about with all of their threat intelligence down into the home, combined it with an industry-leading privacy protection, and but most importantly, deep insights around your data that will enable people to make the informed choices that they have not been able to make so far on their internet habits, whether it's their devices, apps, or online services. In terms of the subscriber enrollment process, and I know Tony touched upon this, it's actually super simple. It could be a customer who gives you a phone call, maybe they write you a letter, or maybe they sign up on your website, right? Whatever it is, it's a simple request. You, as the broadband service provider, would be able to provision them from your office, no truck roll needed. And that moment, and I'm going to age myself by showing this action, by the time they put their phone down, they're already protected, right, across unlimited devices in their home. And then they can log in at their leisure and take a look at their dashboard anytime. And if they're subscribed to the premium service, they can go ahead and customize it as well. So how does it work behind the scenes? How does the boring part work, right? So we have two kinds of audience here. Let's say you have an audience today who chooses not to opt into the service, to the service. Very simple. You do exactly what you're doing today, right? Nothing changes for them. For those who have opted in for the service, they would essentially be front end with our cloud service, their DNS resolution blocking. Behind the scenes, invisible to the user, we integrate with Cisco Umbrella Easy Protect. Not only do we downstream to them, we also have API integration back with them so that we get the dashboard insights and every user gets their own personalized dashboard insights showing what we blocked as well as what Cisco Umbrella has blocked. And we understand that in this problem space, it's not just about throwing a solution over the wall and saying, hey guys, good luck. There's also support needed in terms of articulating the value of such a solution to your subscriber base, be it a small business or a home subscriber, right? So to that extent, we have pre-built marketing kits be it social media, TikTok videos, 6-second TikTok videos, or educational webinars, or flyers or mailers, etc. Or we've even created awareness tools like cyber safety calendars that you can give out at the county fair as free handouts, just to raise the level of cyber awareness and also awareness of the tools, etc. So that we will sit with you. Not only will we give you the pre-built kits, but also sit with you to iron out and get right the marketing, the messaging, and the collateral, etc. So what's in it for you? To reiterate what Tony said, but also reiterate what you get in terms of value for as a combined solution, right? So think about it from your subscriber standpoint. You now have a much cleaner, safer, and more private internet across unlimited devices, but it's not just device specific. It also covers your apps, online services, etc. And last but not the least, it enables you to customize your internet experience in your home. To you, the service provider, Tony talked about 3 pillars, but the joint solution actually extends to 6, which is that now we have an opt-in based option, right? Second, it works for all kinds of infrastructure. So whether you have some legacy DSL folks or you have some new WISP subscribers that you acquired, etc., doesn't matter. For the very first time, you have the option of standardizing your subscriber experience across the entire infrastructure. It's CPE agnostic, as Tony talked about. You can enroll and deploy and troubleshoot from the office, so no more truck rolls. And for the very first time now, you can deliver a very personalized service to subscribers inside and outside your coverage area. So what if you now have a subscriber says, I'm leaving you guys, I'm going to your competitor. You can now still have a continued engagement with them saying, how about you keep our security even though you don't use our internet, right? So you have an opportunity to continue that conversation. Or if you'd like to take the fight into your competition, you can now reach out into those homes and small businesses that are in your competitor's area without laying a single inch of fiber and start to acquire customers for a whole new business line for your business. And as Tony mentioned, you can do all of this with no capex because we use your existing hardware and you're one setting away from this whole new revenue opportunity. So in closing, let me just point out one thing, right? We're talking to broadband service providers who are really being masters of evolution over the last 100+ years. You folks have evolved from telephone companies to cable companies to broadband companies. And I think the next phase of evolution is going to be driven by, well, 2027 is coming. You can argue if it's 2027 or 2028, that you're going to have peak broadband availability for gig speed broadband available across the country. Where is the growth going to come from next? We posit that the growth is going to come from the data economy and the trust economy, right? And building trust takes time. And what we built here is an excellent solution that enables you to get started by changing one setting. So I'll pause right there and start to jump into the demo and show you what the subscriber experience will look like. And we are going to give you a sneak peek in this demo into our new UI as well. Let me just switch screen, share my browser. Can you all see the browser? Do you all see Kavlan? Okay, awesome. So it's a simple web app, the consumer UI. You log in with your Facebook or your Google ID. And this is my home live, by the way, as we speak. So it's loading up data. And that's our new interactive dashboard. So we have a nice little dashboard tutorial that will walk customers through, that they can click through and walk, and it will walk you through the same demo that I'm going to go through now for anybody who's not familiar with the dashboard. But let me walk you through the elements of the dashboard and talk to you about what's different between the light version and the standard version. So overall, I have a few devices connected to this. The devices in my home for the last 24 hours made about 8,300 odd internet requests, and we blocked about 8% of it. So that amounts to about 746 privacy and or malicious intrusions in my home on just a subset of the 20 devices. We blocked about 2 malicious entities as well, which is why the threat meter is showing red, right? It's showing an abnormal threat level. because there has been malicious activity in the home, even though the block rate is only about 8%. What we see is with homes with a reasonable amount of cyber hygiene, the block rates are between 8 to 10%. With some of our broadband service provider partners, we are seeing block rates of up to 30%, which speaks to the kinds of apps and services that people are using. And that's where a lot of our value comes in, because we shine a light on some of that and show them what they need to change in order to make informed choices on their habits. Those 746 attempts that were blocked were from about 62 unique entities. So what are these 62 unique entities? Well, they are these bubbles over here. So if you click on them, you can see each of the bubbles, each of the 62 unique bubbles. Each bubble represents a privacy or malicious threat that my home encountered and was blocked. Orange for privacy, red for malicious, and purple, if you're subscribed to the premium version of the service, you can also do adult content blocking. Purple indicates adult content blocking. So we block a lot of privacy violators like data brokers, ad networks, pixels, beacons, trackers. I may be missing a few things in here of categories that we block, but essentially everything that we think is unnecessary for the functioning of your device, app, or online services that you use in your home, we identify and track. If you're subscribed to the premium service, you have the option to unblock them if you so want to for privacy violations. But when it comes to threat, it's essentially you don't get the option to unblock. It's what we block, what we determine as a threat we block. And right here, you see something that our friends at Cisco blocked for us, right? So we are reporting these red bubbles are malicious entities that Cisco Umbrella Easy Protect block behind the scenes. And this is what it's invisible to the subscribers until they see the red bubbles pop up. And the purple bubbles are adult content, because I have adult content blocking enabled in my home. Now, everything you see in this top 4 cards are what constitutes the light version of the service. So even though you don't get to customize, you still get to see insights specific to your home or small business as to what exactly we blocked. And by the way, this is customizable. If you want that you don't want to have your customers access to a dashboard, you want to do this as a weekly report, monthly report, all of this can be customized. If you want to take out some elements or add some other elements, etc., show it differently, we can customize it for all those options as well. Now, if you subscribe to the premium tier, the standard tier of the service, then the bottom 2 cards get activated. So now you get to customize things like, for example, you can block curated social media, you can block streaming, gaming apps. For example, in this, I blocked Twitch and Voodoo. Voodoo is actually an app that came pre-installed on my Samsung TV that talks out to the internet multiple times a day and collects my viewing habits, right? So things that I've blocked. On the gaming side, we keep adding apps that we block. So part of the value we add is keeping these block lists valid, number 1. Number 2, adding more and more apps to block. So for example, this button right here, even though it says Fortnite, it's magical. If I click it, my lawn gets mowed automatically. The next thing we allow you to do is we allow you to block whatever you want. So for example, I can look at all the activity that's happened in my home over the last 24 hours, and I can pick something that I'm not comfortable with. Hey, IRS gov, yeah, we were doing our taxes last night, right? But if there are things that you see that you're not comfortable with or you don't identify, you can click on that and block it as well. If there are things that you previously unblocked that you're having second thoughts about, in my house, there's no such thing right now, you can unblock those or block those as well. And last but not the least, you can type in anything that you want, and you can freeform block any sites as well, right? Adult content blocking, it's a simple toggle to block, toggle to unblock, and same thing with the apps as well, toggle to block, toggle to unblock. Last but not the least is this section, which is really what where I think we lead the world, is the future of the connected home is going to be, it's not just devices you buy, but it's also devices that are embedded. It's devices that are implanted, it's devices that are ambient, right? So what if you're an Iron Man fan, you probably understand the reference. What if you could have your own private Jarvis? A Jarvis who'll go block threats automatically for you, but also a Jarvis who you can consult on things, right? So for example, we'll give you insights, and as far as I'm aware, we are the world's only company doing this. Hey, who has access or the rights to access your personal data, whether it's your identifying data, your contact information, or your behavioral data, such as your browsing history, your search history, or your geolocation, etc. Right? And if you are uncomfortable with some company having access to this, you can click on this. You can actually view their actual privacy policy, see what rights you have. Maybe they will allow you to do a do not collect or do not share or delete my data, etc. And you can enforce those rights. Second is we give you insights into what sites and apps did to you. So for example, we do know that tons of sites and apps engage in screen recording, keystroke logging, etc. Thankfully, nothing in my home in the last 24 hours. But why does this matter? Especially if you have children, or if you have schools that are part of your subscriber base, they would like to know if there are apps or websites that are screen recording it. Because if they screen record, they're capturing the kids' IDs, which could include their name, maybe their password, or their unique ID. And that's a COPPA violation, right? Providing these kinds of insights to parents as well as administrators is actually pretty key. And last but not the least, we find that there are tons of apps that have no privacy policy, which is huge. You're basically giving them your device and your data with no legal recourse, right? So we identify those as well, and we flag them for you so that you can start to make these informed choices. Now, last but not the least, the thing that we also allow people to do is, what if you could have a Jarvis whom you could talk to and say, is this safe for me to use, right? So we also allow you to, for example, scan a site before you use it. So you could say, hey, how safe is Instacart for me from a privacy perspective? You scan the site, you get some input on that. Thankfully, they don't session log or keystroke log, but they do share my information with a bunch of people. So that now informs my choice as to whether I want to use them or whether I want to use them only in an environment that's protected by Easy Protect and Kowloon, or whether I will just delete them and never worry about them, right? So these are the kinds of informed choices that we want to enable so that the people are brought into the cybersecurity equation as well when it comes to the home. So that's the demo. So I'll pause right there and I'll open it up to any questions.
Yeah, and folks, feel free to come off mute, or we can just do it via chat if we can't unmute. But I think one of the things I want to just reinforce that Vikram said is really important. We're in the middle of a huge seismic shift again in what providers are, how people actually access the internet, and how devices actually interface with our internet access, our personal information, privacy, everything else. I think that the way that Vikram said it is really important. And again, if we're going to sum up this session as we're waiting to see if there's any questions, I think that the sum is you have an opportunity now to be part of what is essentially still the front wave of something that will be a default standard here before long. As we know, people on the front wave of that kind of innovation, that's where the profitability is. So one of the things that we're doing now is actually offering you guys the chance to be more profitable quicker, and then do it before it just becomes a default standard that is expected across the industry. The other thing that I think is important is that anything you can do as a provider to help your consumers feel better about their experience will be rewarded. We're seeing that over and over from a loyalty standpoint and a profitability standpoint. So again, as you guys are contemplating a service like this, as you look at the combination of Easy Protect and Cavalon, and you've got the ability now to sit down and say, what do we want to do next, and how do we want to morph our business? Really, at the heart of it is what we were talking about: privacy, being viewed as a cutting edge company, and the ability to ultimately protect your consumers against everything or almost everything that they can run into. All right, so with that, guys, any questions, comments? We've got a few minutes. We can answer anything you have. Are we seeing anything, Eric?
Not seeing anything in the chat, but if anybody would like to come off mute, please feel free to. But Tony and Vikram, thank you guys so much for joining here and for presenting.
We do see one question in the chat. It disappeared. It popped up and disappeared for me. But
yeah, popped up and disappeared.
Oh, Mark Hennessy, can you read that one in the chat there, sir?
I have a question. It's how do you apply per session? and not all subscribers?
I guess I'll take that question.
Yeah, please.
You're asking about the personalization. Yeah, so we front end the service. And what I showed you is the simplistic deployment / explanation scenario, but the deployment scenarios basically involve us front-ending the service and getting visibility into the traffic. We do associate the traffic with a couple of things, which is their IP address as well as their ID that they log in with. But that's only for the dashboard and reporting purposes, but for the protection purposes, we don't need to do anything. The only thing you need to do on your side is if you have subscribers who are opted into the service, you can assign them to an IP range that you'll allocate for just those subscribers, and everybody else stays outside that IP range. So the moment they're in this IP range, they're automatically protected, which is why I said they could say yes on a phone call, and by the time they plonk the phone down, if you move them, they're protected.
And by the way, that's the same with the Clean Pipe solution. We license this by essentially IP address or rooftop circuit. And most subscribers either have an IP range that is part of an internet package that you sell, or you can either turn it on for the whole company or turn it out as a demo for specific people. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios there, but ultimately we also license by IP range for this solution. So, one of the defaults here is come up with a way to get it to market it so that they're looking at both the security protection and then also all the filtering and adult protection and everything else you just saw. And then just, have that IP range where you're going to license it and then keep adding to that range as you go. It's a great question. Anything else?
Did that answer the question? Just want to confirm we answered the question from the person who asked.
Mark, was there any other questions that popped up?
That is everything so far.
Well, folks, want to thank you for your time today. Really excited. We're excited to work with you guys and give you a new revenue stream, also a way to just increase customer loyalty and stickiness, and potentially even get into new markets. We'd love to have this conversation sooner than later, as you can imagine. So please just reach out to us and we're ready to talk anytime. Eric, do you want to maybe just shut it down and we can give people a few minutes back?
Absolutely. And Tony, on that note, I just wanted to, for everybody that's still attending and that's going to listen to the recording, we'll publish the recording, but feel free to reach directly out to myself, reach out to your Cisco sales rep as well. They'll also know how to get in touch with us, but thanks so much for joining. We'll go ahead and shut it down and have a good rest of your day. Thanks so much, everybody.